The aesthetics of a video game can make the difference. This is Schultz, and I'd like to talk to you about this in a general way, and we'll be going more in depth in the future. The aesthetics of a game can make a difference, make the game actually be good. This game alone, I'm blanking on the name, is a very good game. I'm blanking out who made it, but it's very enjoyable. It's very beautiful. And the game in and of itself, if it was put in any other graphics, would lose its effective means. The story is about a ninja who lost his memory and is trying to and is hunted by a ninja clan, and the other one is Momohime, who's been possessed by this demon swordsman and is trying to get out of there, get rid of it. And the game's name is Muramasa the Demon Blade. And you know what? This art style alone, this watercolored print block look to it, gives this game its flavor. The music does add to it, but you would not have the same feelings and same enjoyment of it, because if you look at this looks like the artwork of Japan, and it sets the tone of the game of being very Japanese, very ingrained in their culture. Many of the little images in the stuff in the background, as you can see, gives this an epic adventure from a faraway land, this exotic land that many Westerners have never seen and probably will never see, and is another fact that as a human species that we'll never see this type of world again, because it happened in the past. Not this exact stuff, but the culture, it's evolved and changed. It literally breathes and just gives this vibe of a beautiful Japanese adventure. And honestly, if this was put in any other graphic style, it wouldn't have the same ring to it. It wouldn't have the same intensity. And because it has this art style of the way it is, it makes you feel attached to the characters and make everything they talk about more interesting. Because if they spoke in just basic terms, he's just fighting against a lord, many people, okay, this, but when you're saying he's fighting against the ninja clan, they're worrying about the daimyo, worrying about the shogunate, it adds exotic flavor to it, and the art style enforces this exotic flavor to it. And the fact that without it, it wouldn't have the same meaning. And art style, whatever game that is there, can juxtapose certain things, because you'll be fighting in the game, and honestly, it has a different meaning and different taste to it. If it was realistic, you'd be having a different expectation out of it. And heck, Dust alone, as you can see, a very beautiful, cartoony game, and honestly, something that when it has certain meaningful plot points or meaningful events, it has a very strong and a stronger sense to it, more for the fact that you're juxtaposed with the notion of a very cartoony, cutesy, tongue-in-cheek actions, and it makes any actions in there seem a little more strong, a little more heart-wrenching. Because when you look at it and you're playing it, it's a hack 'em slash 'em. And if you had this in any other art, in any other style, people would say, it's okay, it's just a generic hack 'em slasher. But because of, yet again, the artistic art style, the aesthetics of the game, it makes it seem, yet again, another exotic game. A world that you'll never see, a fantasy world that it's interesting. You have these beautiful style creatures, even the monsters, they may be scary, but they're beautiful at the same time. There's this haunting beauty of there's beauty, and nature can hold beauty, and all these creatures can be beautiful. They also can be scary at the same time and dangerous. And the fact that even though this is in its basic term is a hack 'em slash, because it's cartoony and anime-esque, you can get away with these crazy attacks, these crazy kills, and this over-the-top action explosive. And the fact that even this little cutesy little animal would not have the same, if you had another human, if this was all realistic graphics, it would not have the same meaning and flair to it. It wouldn't have the same punch to it, where you see something getting scared, and it's harder to produce something that really is scary. And when you use a cartoony or anime-esque and the animation style that they use, when they use that type of art style, something being scared can get that idea across a lot easier to you and actually hit the character and the player more, because you're seeing something unnatural and you're seeing these animals and these characters that are not so that look so friendly, inviting, scared, and you start thinking, oh my goodness, the thing is scared, this should be scary, and it tips off in your mind, this should be scary. And even the monsters themselves, even though they're not completely scary, they have this slightly off, this unnatural nature to them. Where even though he's a creature, he still has human-esque qualities, and there's still human qualities you can connect to. Where this thing is so scary, it is unnatural, where these angles on the body and the art style they chose for it make you kind of feel just this slight unnerved. And without this, a realistic graphic style, you would really have to be putting so much work in, and be so hard to even get something like that. Even like this, you're seeing them fighting monsters, and they're talking about that he said they were his children, and the fact that it's hard to say, oh, the monsters, it's easier to have a monster hated if it really looks monstrous, but when you have this art style, you can see the idea that, is it really a monster, or is it really just our misunderstanding and unable to agree with the notion that one thing maybe looks scary but is actually a living, breathing, nice, beautiful, safe creature, or a creature that you can interact with. And the fact that these art styles set a different tone. Call it, or Medal of Honor, I'm going to show. This sets a different tone. You're not expecting this lighthearted tone, you're expecting action. Like a summer blockbuster, this killing, this shooting, this intensity of, oh my god, am I going to make it, this Saving Private Ryan feel of, holy crap, I have to run through, I gotta be careful. And the fact that when you start fighting and getting up close, it has a brutal sense to it, and the brutal sense is more or less due to the fact that it's so real, and we know how things are supposed to act, and this brutal actions set a different tone of, holy crap, of what have I done. And the other thing is, even this, Way of the Samurai. If this was any other tone, it wouldn't have this dramatic sense to it. Because you need this. This is a game grounded in realism, even though the graphics are not realistic per se exactly. This art style in and of itself sets this tone of a drama unfolding that you're in, that you happen to stumble upon, and you're fighting amongst and with, and you have to interact, and you're trying to find who's the right man, who's the good guy. Are these men that we're fighting against actually bad guys, or is it our misperceived notions? And the fact that it's another exotic world, but it's grounded with what we know historically. We can connect to it, and all these ideas can easily be connected to it, but it gives you a world that seems so much alive. Even though it's just slightly off, you can see it gives this world that is in conflict, and we can connect to this human conflict of fighting against each other on beliefs in what we believe is right. And the fact that if we had this cartoony aspect and atmosphere, we wouldn't have the same effect. That this scene where, oh my god, we're going to have an international issue, this person's going to be hurt and killed, would not have the same meaning if it was those other ones, because we lose that. There's that little bit of connection loss in one way or the other, and it's just different things that these art styles can help push across. And this more realistic look and it's just showing that all these people are scared. Oh my god, what's going on? They're fighting and they're dying. They're trying to save an innocent person, and that this art style does focus that the art style, these characters, how they look. You've got a man who looks evil and scary and brutish. You have the girl that looks innocent and scared, and you want to help. And the fact that if they were any other art style, cartoony or cel-shaded, it would not have the same ring to it. And the fact that it's the art design and the aesthetic choices they choose make the difference. And yet again, with art style itself, Borderlands, this cartooning notion that they have in here, the cel-shaded look, has the notion that it's a lighthearted game. And this idea that these guns are exotic but weird and wacky kind of set up the notion that this game is not to be completely seriously, and to have this lighthearted atmosphere. And this is, art styles mean a lot. And the biggest thing is that this art style already sets it up that you're going to have this over-the-top, crazy action and silly, goofy nature. And that alone is that honestly, if this was done in realistic graphics, people would be kind of turned off because you're just killing tons of people. But because it's this cartooning action and this action feel, when you're seeing their heads explode and blowing up and melting down and bursting and electricity shocking them, it has a different feel to it. And then Mark of the Ninja. This art style is showing his descent into madness, that his perception is so warped he cannot see how things are going. That this art style pushes the fact that the supernatural notion, and he's losing connection with reality. That without this art style of this beautiful Japanese style and seeing how things, this is not how the world is, his perception is completely destroyed after what he did for his clan to make it survive.
I am not your enemy.
And the fact that, another thing, if this art style wasn't the way it was, it would be very hard to get it across, because either the cartoony nature that it may be allows this aesthetic art style allows the person to start questioning the nature of what he's doing. The fact that he is having a hard time blending the modern world is this, and the fact that his eyes, the clouds in the background, the moving atmosphere is showing that he's struggling and having conflict, and the fact that if this were put in realistic graphics, you would not be able to have the same effect, because it would be, oh, this is how it looks like, and everything looks like that, and when you switch it, everyone say, oh, that doesn't make sense, that doesn't fall right, but because there's this animation style that they're having, lets the game itself push these notions and not be impeded by realistic graphics. And the fact that aesthetic styles are a major factor, and the fact that all these different art styles and aesthetic styles that are chosen is very good, and is something that is beautiful and should never be forgotten. We should never always just say, let's do realistic graphics. As you'll see here, he walks past the street and it just falls apart. His world is crumbling. And the fact that if this was done like in like they do in Assassin's Creed, where the world falls in upon itself, it loses itself, and even these light and dark mechanics for your stealth is showing that the almost like glimpses that he's getting. He's able to see what he's doing, and he's black and going back and forth and struggling with himself. And the fact that he's descended being in the dark is showing that he's descended in the darkness, and there's small moments of clarity in his life and his existence of what he's done. And the fact that an art style can change slightly in the game and can have major effects. And the fact that this alone really sets the tone of what has to be done. These little things are just little statues that, if they were just little statues in any other art style in any other game, wouldn't mean the same thing. But the fact that these things start coming to life, he's unable to register what is real or not anymore. That his perception is so gone, this art style is able to do it. And honestly, this change in art style that you will see in a second does show a strong sense that he's struggling in his own mind, and he's remembering what he's doing. And this notion is that he can't follow it anymore. And the fact that these notions are something that is that you can easily put great notions and great ideas in these art styles, and you can make people question things a lot better if the art style is appropriate to the theme that you're trying to get across. And aesthetic reasons, we should never ignore a game because it looks too cartoony, looks too real, looks too childish, because there are several reasons why these developers chose these things, and I want people to realize that aesthetic choices mean a big thing and set a big difference and set a great tone in a video game. And that these aesthetic choices, however good or bad you may feel on the outside, do make a difference and do make a great importance on the game and how they act and how they respond and how you as a player play it. And even this little tone, the look, it shows the fact that the player is struggling, going through his life, going through his actions, and is fighting and struggling. And the fact that most players don't, it gives the choice of the player to start thinking of what he's done throughout his whole playthrough. This change in art style is showing a black and white decisions throughout his whole game, that he had clear choices of what to do and what not to do, and he, in his own world, it was black and white, and the fact that everything he did was a dark, black, horrible thing. And this art style, even though it changes, it leaves an impact. This aesthetic choice really makes significant for games. It also, I do feel, proves that games are an art form. I really hope you've enjoyed this. Please tell me what you think. I hope you've enjoyed. Please tell me as I said, please tell me what you think. And I like to say, everyone, thank you and good night.